When most people imagine awakening, they imagine clarity, relief, insight, finally understanding what's wrong. But awakening didn't feel like that for me at all. For a long time, becoming self aware actually felt destabilizing and confusing and uncomfortable in ways I didn't expect. So, if you've ever wondered whether awareness is supposed to feel this hard or whether you're doing it wrong, this video is for you. I'm Brad. I talk openly about narcissistic patterns from the inside, not to excuse them, but to understand them well enough to change how we relate to them. And today, I want to talk about something that's rarely described honestly: what awakening actually looks like when you're the narcissist. Not the idealized version, not the motivational version, the real one. For years, I thought awakening would mean becoming calmer, more regulated, less reactive. I thought I'd feel better. Like one day I'd wake up and the patterns would just be gone, or quieter, or at least easier to manage. But that's not how it started. Instead, the first thing that happened was that things got louder, more visible, more confusing, more exposed. Awakening didn't feel like relief. It felt like losing the protections I didn't even know that I was using. What began to change wasn't my behavior, it was my awareness. I started noticing how quickly my body tightened, noticing how fast my mind jumped to control, noticing how often I withdrew before I knew why. Moments that used to pass unnoticed suddenly had texture. I could feel the shutdown beginning before it fully took over, and that was disorienting because the pattern didn't stop, but now I could see it. This is the part no one prepares you for. Self awareness doesn't immediately give you new skills, it gives you visibility, and visibility without capacity can feel brutal. This is usually the moment people think, I'm getting worse. You're not. You're waking up. This video hits you, whether you're the one with the narcissistic patterns or someone who loves them. Tell me in the comments. Have you ever witnessed real change in someone with NPD or high narcissistic traits? Your stories matter. I read every one. And if this video helped clarify the truth behind the myth, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. There was a moment during this phase that stayed with me. A close friend, someone I owed a significant amount of money to, was trying to explain how it felt for her when I wasn't paying her back in a way that matched what I had agreed to. She wasn't attacking me. She told me she was sharing it because she wanted me to understand the impact it had on her. And almost immediately, my body reacted. Before I had a clear thought, there was a faint ringing in my ears, like I could hear my own pulse. My body went still, my breath became shallow, my mind grew quiet. And I noticed all of it happening. That was new. I wasn't unaware. I was watching the reaction unfold. Inside, a very calm, very practical thought formed. Something like, this probably isn't going to land with me. Expressing it this way won't change anything. But at the same time, something else was there too: discomfort, a pressure in my body, an urge for the moment to end. Not because she was wrong, but because staying in that emotional space felt overwhelming. It wasn't anger, it wasn't indifference. It was a mix of wanting to be effective and wanting the exposure to stop. I wasn't thinking about how this might feel to her. I was focused on what works and how to get out of the intensity I was experiencing. And the strangest part was this: even though I could see the shutdown beginning, even though I was aware of it in real time, I couldn't yet see a different way to respond. I could see the pattern, I just didn't have access to other options. That was when I realized something important. Awakening doesn't mean you suddenly behave differently. Sometimes it just means you can finally see what's been running you while it's still running. There's another layer to this that almost no one talks about. Once I became aware of these patterns, I expected change to be fast. And honestly, I think people around me expected that too. There was this unspoken assumption: if you can see it now, why are you still doing it? And that question creates a lot of frustration for them and for me, because awareness doesn't instantly rewire a nervous system. Seeing a pattern doesn't mean you suddenly have the capacity to interrupt it under pressure. What awareness does at first is remove denial, not install new skills. So now you're in this brutal middle space. You see the shutdown, you feel it happening, you know it's not what you want, and it still happens. To you, the gap feels like failure. To them, it feels like if you really cared, you would change. But neither of those is actually true. What's happening is that old wiring is still firing faster than the new capacity can respond. Awareness turns the lights on. Change takes repetition and time. And that mismatch between insight and behavior is one of the hardest parts of awakening. This is where I want to pause and say something important. I could not have gone through this phase alone. I only became as self aware as I am because I had people around me who understood this inner world and could reflect things back to me without shaming me. So that's why I created the free online Awake Narcissist community. So if you're in this in between phase, seeing things but not yet knowing how to work with them, having others who get it makes a real difference. The link's in the description if you want to join us. Over time, recovery didn't look like becoming emotional, it looked like becoming present. I started staying in moments that I used to escape, not perfectly, not gracefully, but consciously. I could feel the urge to withdraw and then stay anyway. I could feel the impulse to control and then pause. I could notice numbness without immediately acting from it. That's when recovery began to feel real, not because the patterns were gone, but because they no longer ran the entire system. Recovery doesn't look like perfection. It looks like slower reactions, earlier awareness, less certainty, more humility. It looks like saying, I don't know what I'm feeling yet, instead of pretending you do. It looks like staying connected even when it's uncomfortable. And most importantly, it looks like less shame, not because the past disappears, but because you finally understand why you became this way. If awakening feels destabilizing right now, if awareness feels harder than ignorance, you're probably closer than you think. Because recovery doesn't rebuild you into something new, it reveals the system you've been living inside so you can finally work with it instead of fighting it. And that system, the one beneath the shutdown, the numbness, the defensiveness, that's what I'm breaking down next in the upcoming video, the narcissistic operating system you were never told about. I'll see you there.